concept. You have a great concept. You guys are doing it, man, and it's an honor for me to just be, a small rock, man, in your mountain. I'm gonna pop a top in your honor. Mr. Doc Walker blessed us with his presence, and now
we want to welcome in our next special guest, Haley Skarupa. She's a three-time world champion in women's ice hockey and most recently won Olympic gold with Team USA.
The Cap Stadium Series is definitely my favorite, obviously. I'm a huge Caps fan, I always have been, and to be there at that game with my teammates and for us to bring, our gold medals to there and share it with everyone in this area was really, really special for me, and just the support and it's been tremendous from everyone in this area, and you can feel that there at that game.
Welcome to Sports on the Hill podcast. Hashtag DC Sports Without the Politics with Carol and Robbie on True Radio Network.
By CPIII. Many can copy us, but none can duplicate us. By CP3.
What's going on, people? CP3, live from the lab, Sports on the Hill podcast, pop-up show. If you notice, it's not Robbie G in the second screen. We got DC's People's Champ coming in live tonight. I figured with all the stuff going on in the sports news right now on the Washington football team, even though they've been put out of the playoffs in the first round, they've made some moves and have a lot of people talking. So I figured, why not do a pop-up show? I haven't done one in a while. So I figured I'd jump on the air, bring in one of the network affiliates to, come talk some football, talk some Washington football team, and even gonna talk a little bit of Caps. DC's People's Champ, how you doing tonight, good sir?
CP3, as I always say at the beginning of my podcast, Con, hello. Thank you for having me on here for this pop-up show. I'm looking forward to talking about what's been my favorite team since a child and what they're doing with their offseason only 2.5 weeks old.
No doubt, no doubt. It's always good to see teams making smart moves. We haven't seen that in a while, but like we talked about all season. It's a new day at Redskins Park. But before we get into football news, we have to mention the Washington Capitals. I'm not going to say stupidity, but bad decision making. Not to mention that they lost last night to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Both of the games in overtime. Well, both of the games in extended period. First game was a shootout. Second game they lost last night. They lost in overtime. And then to find out the Caps team gets fined $100,000 because of these guys that were hanging out. Apparently, DC's people have said they were what? They were hanging out at a hotel, and who was the one that was positive?
So here's what happened, so I can give CP3 a chance to share this out to all the interwebs so that they can hear the information. So the news came out earlier today that the Caps, or yesterday I believe it was, that the Caps were fined $100,000 for violation of the COVID-19 protocol, which means that teams cannot gather together in non-team organized events like practice, games, or anything like that, or travel. 4 members of the team, mostly like a lot of the Russians, Alex Ovechkin, Dmitry Orlov, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and goalie Ilya Samsonov were in one of the hotel rooms just hanging out and whatnot, what have you. And that violated the COVID-19 protocols. So not only were they fined, but then it was announced that the 4 would be missing the next 4 games because of contract tracing. And then the report came out today that the reason for the contract tracing was because Samsonov unfortunately did test positive for COVID-19. So because of that, Ovechkin and Orlov and Kuznetsov have to quarantine for the next 10 to 14 days. And because these next 4 games are taking place over the next 7 days, that's why those 4 will be absent from those four upcoming games because of, as Carol said, this very, very lax judgment call that they made to hang out in their hotel room, knowing that it was going up against COVID protocols. And the funny thing is that Ovechkin's wife didn't like that call either. By the way, hold on, I'm trying to pull it up. Okay, here it is. She posted on her Instagram and said that Ovi and Orlov already had the COVID-19 antibodies. I mean, they've had COVID-19 already before. But she wasn't happy about the fact that they got fined, that they're going to have to sit and all this other stuff. But you got to understand, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and they're not in a bubble. So they have to do this in order to keep from causing an outbreak. I mean, look at the Wizards. They're going through an outbreak where they've had 6 games canceled in the last two weeks, almost. So bad decision by these guys, and they could have put the team in very big jeopardy if they had, if this wasn't about it.
No doubt, no doubt. Good, great breakdown. I didn't get a chance to delve into it like you did. Appreciate that. Now let's get to the real reason we're here. The Washington football team has finally named a GM, Marty Herney, who was previously in Carolina and got fired in December, right after, a year after they fired Coach Rivera. A lot of fans are upset, talking about this is now the Washington football Panthers and the Washington Panthers. My thing is, we saw what the coach did for his first year with all the obstacles, pandemic, and you saw the progression of his team. You saw the development of the players. You saw, players stepping up, the team playing tough, playing, better on the field product. But yet you still have folks questioning his judgment, and all the meanwhile battling cancer, and still was able to have his team ready to play ball every Sunday, competitive. They ended up winning 7 games when they only predicted to win 2 and winning the East. So, I mean, it's amazing how folks can just jump to these conclusions. Why can't they just be there on the same page? They understand what's going to make the team better, and that's what you want between your coach and your GM. What do you have to say, Ken?
I mean, here's the thing. This new GM, Marty Herney, coming from Carolina, I mean, he made some great moves in that front office in his time there. I mean, he was the one that brought in guys like Cam Newton, like Keekly, guys like that who went on to be absolute, star players when they were in Carolina. I wish I had the full list of all the people that he had ended up drafting while he was GM there, but he drafted some really, really, really good players there. The reason why he was let go from Carolina, what I read, is that it was a clash of styles between himself and the owner. This GM is more of an old school type of GM, whereas the owner wants somebody that's all about analytics and things of that, and the statistics and things of that nature, and that's not his style. So he's bringing that sort of old school flair and flavor here, but again, it's more so as sort of like a parallel to Ron Rivera, because I'm sure Ron Rivera still has say in the personnel decisions when it comes to his team. So I think they're going to be working in parallel when it comes to that. But I think this is a good hire because of his track record in Carolina with the players he picked, put on that team to make that team a pretty competitive team in a very competitive division in the NFC South with teams like New Orleans and Atlanta when Atlanta were world. So I like the hire. I really like the hire. I like the fact he's going to come in here and hopefully bring in that old school mentality, that old school style of picking personnel to bring us the personnel we need to get us over the hump.
Definitely agree. I mean, you can't knock or judge somebody from their previous employment or previous reason why they got fired. Everybody grows. Everybody hopefully learns from their mistakes and learn where they went wrong. And sometimes it's just a bad fit. Like you mentioned that, him and the owner clash with the way they chose to decide to, make personnel moves. And that's definitely going to be a deal breaker between the owner and the GM because they're that, bridge between the coach. So then we also have to talk about the Martin Mayhew hire. A lot of folks was also mentioning, that Martin Mayhew that came in to interview for the GM position, and there were a lot of folks that were upset that Hurney got the position, and then lo and behold, they hired Martin Mayhew. As of right now, he's just a high-ranking executive with title to be determined. But from my understanding, he's going to be the go-between with Hurney and Coach, and they're going to work together closely on restructuring the way things are set up at Redskins Park. So for all of those folks that was upset when the news came out, and I told y'all, you know, Martin Mayhew's going to get a chance somewhere. He did good things, but you can't forget that he also had John Lynch there that did a hell of a job as an executive putting that team together. So he was definitely going to get a shot somewhere, and then lo and behold, it comes out that he ends up signing here anyway. So it's just funny how that works out. Loving that the fact that he won the Super Bowl here also. So what do you think about the Martin Mayhew hire?
Here's an interesting thing about the Martin Mayhew hire. And this came from, if you look at the Rooney Rule, there's a possibility of a compensatory pick going to San Francisco for this hire, because according to the Rooney Rule, the employer club shall be eligible to receive this draft choice compensation if, and it says in the first one, the minority employee hired as a head coach or primary football executive has been employed by the employer club for a minimum of 2 years. So if this whatever title that he gets is a primary football executive, then San Francisco is getting a compensatory third-round pick for this. So I don't know much about Mayhew. I don't know much about him. He was originally with San Francisco as VP of Player Personnel, and they did pretty good with player personnel there. So obviously he has enough credentials that Dan Snyder and wanted to bring him into this front office to be a part of this new revamped front office. So I have no problem with this hire. I want to see what his title will be and what his responsibilities will be going forward. But I'm cool with this. I'm cool with this one, and I like the fact that they hired a minority. Now they got another minority in the front office. Progress.
No doubt, no doubt. But you can't forget his time in Detroit when he was the GM. That's what a lot of folks, were knocking on him when he was in Detroit. But like you said, he went to San Francisco and he got better doing his job. He learned from that time in Detroit. And now we're going to see how he helps this franchise move forward. I mean, the draft over the last few years has been pretty good, and that's why another section of fans are upset that Kyle Smith didn't get the GM position. And I have been smoked. I didn't know that he ran the whole scouting department, because I know they're still using some of Scott McCloughan's staff that a lot of folks don't talk about. But they plundered his staff when he left the organization, but they kept the people that worked under him on the payroll. So Kyle Smith is the head of the draft. I feel like, they probably in the mindset, you've done a great job since you've been in that position, so might as well keep focusing on that instead of, moving into a GM role. You can always learn from the, where you are right now. And then when it's time for you to make that move, then yeah, you can have some experience and be around it to understand what's entailed in being a GM. Just because you do a good job at one position doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good in that other position. And, I feel like that's a wise move on their part. What do you think about the whole Kyle Smith situation and some of the fans being upset that he's not the GM?
Yeah, right. So, I like it. I like it. I mean, if Kyle Smith has been the man heading up the whole, scouting department and doing all the legwork in terms of scouting talent in the draft and everything like that, why wouldn't you want to have him be the point man when it comes to the draft? I mean, it just makes sense to me, at least, because he's the one that's seeing all the talent and bringing it forward to the front office coach and the coaching staff and things like that. So I'm of the component of the man who's doing the legwork should be the one that should be able to be at the table and be a prominent part of that table in those types of decisions for the draft, because, like you said, they have been doing wonderful in the draft these last couple of years. I mean, pretty much the uncrowned defensive rookie of the year was drafted number 2 this past draft, and they've drafted a bunch of those Alabama boys who've been balling. Yes, I like that. This, once again, is showing how this team is changing the direction of what they used to do. So what they can be. So I like
Definitely.
more and more.
Definitely. That's a great segue into the rookie report card because they have been a lot of hits on the draft lately, which has been previously a big problem with this franchise, and we've had a lot more hits than misses lately. So I hope it continues to go that way because we love to see our players get better, develop, and show their true talent and potential. I'm about to make up a new word over here. You already mentioned Chase Young, second round pick. I gotta give him an A. A lot of folks was talking, that he was a bust in the first few weeks, but we already talked about that during the show, so I'm not even gonna get back into that. But he got stronger during the season, which is a hard thing for a player to do because they're only a college player coming to the NFL their first season. They're used to playing 12 games, and that's it, season over. They play a whole regular season, 16 games, and playoffs, and get stronger and get more dominant, as the season goes on. And I believe he is going to get Defensive Rookie of the Year. Bruce Arians actually is kind of hating on him for getting two Defensive Rookie of the Year awards right now because he swears Antonio Winfield Jr., who's on his squad, who has some impressive numbers. I didn't write him down. I was checking him out, but he has some pretty impressive numbers for a rookie. But the impact that Young made, you can't discount that for this defense, for this team, and for this franchise. So, I mean, what's your grade of Chase Young?
I definitely give Chase Young an A. He shined as a rookie. I mean, he had high expectations on him being the number 2 overall pick. So you knew the expectation was going to be high. That's why this fan base, which is dumb as hell in my opinion, they decided to say he was a bust when he didn't come out and have three or 3 sacks per game the first couple games. He ended the campaign with 7.5 sacks. He had 32 tackles, 12 of them were assists, 12 assists and tackles for a total of 44 tackles. So he had 32 solo tackles. He had 10 stuffs, he had 10 hurries, and he had 4 pass deflections. He also forced 4 fumbles with 3 recoveries and a touchdown. Those are really good numbers for a kid who didn't have a true offseason. The kid didn't have a true offseason and put up those type of numbers in his rookie year. Imagine next year, he's a second-year pro, and he has an offseason. I'm predicting he's going to have 10-plus sacks next season.
Definitely 7.5 sacks. I mean, 4 forced fumbles, 12 tackles for loss. I mean, as a rookie DN, that's a pretty impressive, season coming in. Like you say, no real off season, having to make the transition, virtual OTAs, virtual stuff. I mean, hey, I think they definitely nailed it with this kid. Like I said, I don't watch college, so I didn't know all of the great things he did at Ohio State, but he damn sure impressed me all the season. And his maturity and his leadership, being 21 years old, I mean, that already, goes leaps and bounds of what I was expecting. So it's definitely a pleasant surprise.
The kid ended up being a captain in his first season. A captain in his first season. Where do you see that at?
Hey, like I said, they finally hit one right. Well, I ain't gonna say finally, but got another good one in the first round, I should say. Gonna go to Antonio Gibson, running back. I gave him a B, being that he's transitioning. He only had 73 carries as a senior in college. He was making the transition from wide receiver to running back. The injury, the turf toe, I feel slowed his progress. Still had 11 touchdowns, 2 shy of the rookie record that Alfred Morris had. 795 yards on the ground. He definitely has a huge upside. When later in the year you saw him starting to learn how to use his blocks better and learning how to, see his cutback lanes better and actually using them and not, trying to force it on where the player's supposed to go and have better instincts of where the hole is. So I can't wait to see him and McClissick, work together again next year because both of them under contract. What do you say about Antonio Gibson?
Right. So I gotta give him a B minus. Actually, I would have gave him something higher, but I think the injuries really hampered him. And even when he came back, you could tell he was still really hobbled by that turf toe. even though he kind of came on strong late, but you still tell he was hobbled by that turf toe. And I think he doesn't get injured and he plays at least 12, maybe 13 games instead of 10. I honestly think, oh, no, he played 14 games. But I say if he plays more games, I think that he gets really close to 1,000 yards. I don't think he gets 1,000 yards or eclipses it, but I think he gets really close to 1,000 yards. I think the other thing that kind of hampered him was early on. A lot of those games we were in comeback mode, so it was pass, pass, pass all day, and not a lot of running. I think that also hindered him from having a good statistical year because a lot of those games we were in comeback mode, so it was like 60%, it was like 70% passing, 30% running. So I give him a B minus, but I think he's going to have a better year next year when this team can be able to balance and have 50-50 running and passing.
Definitely. Very valid points. Good way to break that down. Next pick was Sadiq Charles. I put incomplete. He injured when he did get the chance to. He had a calf injury in training camp, and then when he finally got a chance to start, he got hurt on the first play of the game, dislocating his kneecap. So that's incomplete, I guess I'd say. The next pick was Antonio Golden Gandy. This guy. We had so high expectations for this guy, but I always say some wide receivers it takes between 1 and 3 years for them to find their stride in the NFL, especially with him coming from a smaller school. So I feel like I was a little harsh with the D that I gave him, but when he had a chance to go out there and show what he can do, he didn't. Granted, the quarterback was who it was, but his talent in his own should have helped him, get on the field more and make some plays when he had the opportunity to. What do you say? Was I too harsh on AGG?
No, I don't think you're too harsh. I mean, I'm looking at his numbers, and the kid, in 6 games played, 2 started, he only had 1 catch. 1 catch in 6 games. I get it. You're a rookie, and I mean, there's a lot of ball to go around. You have the throw in there, and all the other receivers, but like you said, when you're out there in the game, you got to make plays. And you never really heard his name said much when it came to making plays. So I think, though, again, this is most likely a product of, again, not really having an off season. So, of course, yeah, this is going to happen. But I'm expecting bigger, better things from this kid next year with a full off season. If we get the same production that we get this year with more games next year, then I wouldn't really want to be invested more into this kid.
Well, I mean, he's under a rookie contract as a 4th-round pick, so he ain't really a big cap number. So you can at least let him play out his rookie deal unless he just, doesn't progress at all. Then he's just dead weight, and yeah, you get rid of him. But you don't want to. I feel you don't want to get rid of these guys too soon, because, like I said, sometimes it takes them a little bit longer to find their stride, and then once they do, they turn into a monster once they figure the NFL game out, if they get that opportunity. As long as they put in the work. I haven't really heard any bad things about him from the folks I talked to at the park about as in work ethic and not putting in the work. It's just, still transitioning from college to the NFL. Like I said, smaller school, you got bigger players, faster players, and the stuff that he was able to do in college, you're not going to be able to do that in the NFL, so he has to find his way, and, hopefully he can, because he definitely has the potential and the talent to, take some pressure off of Terry. Because once we can get another legitimate wide receiver that the teams have to worry about, then Terry's going to start going off and he's not getting double teamed all the time. Next pick was the center, Keith Ishmael. He really didn't get to play. He was on special teams some, but I give him incomplete since they re-signed. Should have wrote his name. I forgot his name already that quick.
Chase Roulier.
Yeah, Chase Roulier. I don't know how I forgot his name. I always love saying his name on there. Chase Roulier. Yeah, he signed a nice deal to stay center for the next, I believe, 3 or 4 year deal, I believe. And so he really didn't get a chance to get on the field, so can't even really give him any judgment. The next pick was Kaliki Hudson. I gave him a C. He played on special teams most of the year, but when some of the linebackers got dinged up late in the season, He was inserted to the starting lineup. First game, was a little shaky, but the more he was on the field, the better he played. Um, Only reason I give him a C is just because, like I said, that first game, him finding his way took him a little bit, in my opinion. I understand the first quarter, the excitement in your first start, new things happening, boom, boom, boom. But it took him a little bit too long to, get his bearings in the game. But once he did, he was lights out. So he has a good upside, especially with, the linebacker, the core that we have. They want to get more athletic and more versatile, and he definitely would bring that to the lineup. What is your grade on Kaliki Hudson?
It was this one again? I couldn't understand you.
Kaliki Hudson, the linebacker.
Okay. Yeah, I would give him a C. I would give him a C. It was average. He did play in all 16 regulars. He did play in all 16 games. He did start in 2. He had some pretty good numbers, 8 total tackles. So, he's not got out of the world stats, but as you mentioned, as someone who is an expert on defense, he played his role when he was in there. So I would say C. I want to see what he can do as part of that three-man linebacker crew more and more to see what he can do there. Because I mean, he can tackle and he can, but I want to see him do it. So I gave him a C.
Yeah, his size makes it hard to keep him in there on a regular basis. But we'll see how he develops. They ain't always about the size. London Fletcher, was 5'9", but he was a monster when he was out there. So all we can do is wait and see. And one of my favorite picks behind Chase Young, Cameron Curl, who
Yes.
if you go back to our draft report that me and Dujanay did, we told folks this kid was going to be a playmaker. Dujanay saw him up close at the Senior Bowl playing for Arkansas down there in SEC country. After he, showed me some of the tape that he saw, and we talked about it, we both agreed that this kid was going to be a game changer if he got a chance to get into the game. And when Landon Collins went down, he took over the strong safety position. And in starting 11 games, this man had 88 tackles. That's at the safety position. He had more stats. I didn't write them all down. Like I said, it's a pop-up show, on Mondays. You know how we do with all the stats and everything. This is just a pop-up show, so we're not going to get all into the numbers and everything like we normally do. But this kid is, yes, we finally found the true safety. Now, the question mark is going to be with Landon Collins. He has a $13.7 million cap hit next year. Want to see, because if they cut him, it's going to be, it's 17.2 if he gets cut. If they cut him, it'll be a $13.7 million cap hit. So, and Cameron Curl is only $800,000 cap hit. So, it's going to be very interesting because we saw with Cameron Curl on the field, we saw what he did when he was out there. His ball awareness, being the fact that he can play free safety, strong safety, and corner because he played all those positions in college. And, yeah. What do you say, DC's People Champ? You know how much I love defense, man. And we know how long we've needed a game changer playmaker safety since who Sean Taylor passed away. We haven't had one since him. And yeah, I think we might found a nice piece of the puzzle out there.
I gotta give him an A, most definitely. You mentioned the 88 tackles. 63 of those tackles solo. So he knows when he gets his hands on you, you are not going anywhere. Also, he has 2 sacks as a safety, so that's really good. But I think what really stands out to me is he's, like you said, he's a ball hawk. He had 3 interceptions this past season, including one of them was pick 6. The kid has it. And man, he may not have the hitting capability of the late great Sean Taylor, but like you said, he is a game-changing safety. He knows how to find the ball. He knows how to take you down when you get the open field. He is definitely a piece of the puzzle that is going to be a welcome change in what has always been an Achilles heel for this defense, which is the back end of the defense, secondary. You already have your front 7 shored up and doing work, but that secondary needed help for so long, and Cameron Curl is one of those pieces there You put him Landon Collins. Oh man. Oh man.
It's gonna get nasty out there. It's gonna get nasty out there. So, yeah, the defense is building. It's gonna be very interesting. Very interesting. Mark Moore asked about what do we need in the draft upcoming. We're not gonna get into the draft preview. We're gonna definitely do a show based on that. All I'ma say is a lot is gonna depend on Brandon Sheriff. If he resigns with the team, he tentatively said he wants to stay here. So he's already been under the franchise tag once. We're going to see what happens in the offseason. If they can re-sign him, Coach already said that he's good with because then all of this offensive linemen will be signed until, I think everyone will be signed until, I believe, 2022. So they have a whole year to, not have to worry about signing any starters. Look for more, backups to add depth as usual, but they don't have to worry about drafting an offensive lineman in the top rounds because they need to, replace a piece, or, I feel like the line isn't good enough and need to replace it with someone. So I feel like that's going to play a key role into how they look at the draft, because there's still some missing pieces. There's still some question marks on some players on our, how's it going to work out with, you can't really make a true judgment based off of this season because of the, pandemic and not being able to be a regular, regular season, if you want to say. No training camp for real, no preseason games, everybody coming in cold. Some teams, running the same offense, some teams learning on the fly. That's why you saw the inconsistency in the beginning of the season, and once the players started, get used to the plays and knowing how to execute it, you saw the offense, playing better. So same thing with the defense. So it's going to be real interesting. What do you think is going to play a role into how this team drafts and their offseason going forward?
To be honest, me as a fan, I'm not really looking at what we need from the draft just yet. The offseason literally just started like a couple of weeks ago, and right now, the focus has been on, we finally have a GM, and we have another key executive that's going to be in the role. So I'm not really looking at the draft and what we need from the draft right now. But if I had to pick, I would say I would agree with you that the situation with Brandon Sheriff is definitely going to play a role in what we need, because Brandon Sheriff plays such a key role on that offensive line, playing in guard. So if you don't have him, you got to find yourself a very capable guy that can step in there and be a key part of this offensive line, because you don't know what you're going to have at quarterback next year. So you want to be able to at least have a line that's going to be able to protect whoever your quarterback is when it comes to next season. So if I had to pick, I would say a need would be an offensive line, and we're at 19, which would be a good place to pick a very quality offensive guard. That's if I had to pick, but honestly, I'm not looking at that at this point. Next month, then it's time to start looking like, okay, what do we need in terms of pieces to get them from a 7-9 season, even though we won the division, to 9 wins, 10 wins, and so on and so forth.
Well, they definitely have that potential, even though they will be playing the first place schedule and all the division winners. So, I win a division always makes it a little bit tougher that next season, which this team should, and I feel they will rise to the occasion. And it's going to be very interesting going into the off season to see how things go. And you mentioned who will be playing quarterback. We still have perfect segue once again, DC's People Chat. We still have Alex Smith deciding on whether he is going to retire or stay, because he has I believe a $24 million cap hit this year. Heineke played well. I felt he played enough to at least get back to training camp next year. Kyle Allen, I feel like he played well enough to come back for training camp next year. And I'm pretty much content with that. Now, if Alex retires, I feel like they'll pick up another quarterback to, especially during training camp, to take snaps. But, we'll see. You still have the practice squad. Montez, he was the backup quarterback when Smith couldn't go. And that leads us to the Deshaun Watson trade rumors. Saying I saw a couple of articles saying that the Washington football team is a sleeper, and the trade talks for Deshaun Watson. Only reason I don't agree with trying to trade for him because they're going to want a lot. This kid is 25 years old. We've seen what he's done. We know he still has potential to be better. So they're going to want a lot. I saw some articles talking about they will want somebody like Montez Sweat or someone like Brandon Sheriff. I even saw Matty Unitas' name mentioned, even afar off, talking about Chase Young. I didn't even read that article. I wasn't even going to waste my time on that. But he's a dynamic player. He definitely would shore up a position that's been, I guess I could say, Russian roulette for a long time, that we can't get a quarterback. You know, like I said, we hadn't had a good safety in a quality safety, playmaker safety in a long time since Sean Taylor passed away. I feel like we finally shored that up. And by signing Watson, yes, that definitely would, shore up the quarterback position. And I feel it would definitely improve the offense because they would have to account for him and his scrambling ability and his running ability, which would free up some of the pressure on Terry, because if you have to have a man spying on your quarterback, that's one less man you have in the backfield trying to cover it. That means you can't put two people on Terry when you got three other wide receivers running around. Somebody's going to be running free. So that would definitely help this offense. We know coaches used to having a mobile quarterback that, can get some tough yards when you need it. So I'm not against it because of, whatever crazy reason. It's just, it's going to cost too much. And I don't want this team giving up draft picks or quality players to make a deal for Watson when we don't know what we have at quarterback. I'm not saying Heineke's going to be the answer, but that kid got a little something to be able to come in and do what he did in the playoff game, nationally televised, under the big lights. So I feel like he's deserved a shot, and I always say, you don't have to be a first-round draft pick at a big school with a big name to be an NFL quarterback. We've seen how many first-round quarterbacks are bust in this league. It's about that hunger to want to be better, the will to want to fight to the end. That man played the whole quarter with a separated AC joint in his left shoulder. You know what I'm saying? That man was in school a month and a half, 2 months ago, about to get his degree, and then he was out there balling like that. So I ain't saying he the answer, but I want to see what he can do when they get a real training camp and he goes out there. You saw the touch he had on the ball. You saw the hunger and the fight for the extra yard. You saw that touchdown run. He got moves too, went inside the pocket, outside the pocket, made a man miss, and then broke and dove to the pylon. I mean, hey man, that looked like a quarterback to me. What do you say about the whole Deshaun Watson and the Washington football team quarterback situation going into the next year?
I don't like it because of what you just said, the draft picks. Let's not mortgage our potential future on yes, Deshaun Watson is a talented quarterback. I mean, just this past season on a very trash Houston Texans team, this kid threw 4,823 yards and 33 touchdowns against seven interceptions. Okay, so that's amazing. And he also ran for 444 yards with 3 touchdowns on the ground. So, again, he's a talented kid. But the last time we mortgaged our future on a quarterback, it was RG3, and we traded pretty much every draft pick we could think of to get to number 2 to get him. And we saw how that turned out. I don't want this team to do the same thing and give up a lot of picks for this kid, and then it doesn't turn out right. Now, I'm not wishing for failure if it happens, but I just don't want to see history repeat itself. Would I want Deshaun Watson if it doesn't cost us doesn't mean us mortgaging our future for him? Hell yeah, I want him here. Hell yeah. I want him here to come here and succeed and be on a team that is talented. I mean, that Houston Texans team, that old coach they had traded away pretty much bumpkins for a talented wide receiver, for a talented wide receiver. And the fact that it took so long for him to get sent out of town is beyond me. But as much as I would love for Deshaun Watson to be on his team, the fact that it's going to cost, like you said, so much to get him, I'm not with it. at all. I think that they need to continue to use the pick that they have and use the draft to cultivate this team.
Yeah, I mean,
And
if they want something like a second and a second next year and a third a year after, and a player, somebody like say a Ianitis, and throw in Peyton Barber, I could go with something like that. But yeah, first round picks. I mean, depends on if it's one first round pick and a player. I might be willing to discuss it depending on what player they're talking about. But only one first round pick. Might throw in a third, see a first or third and a player. Excuse me. I could go for something like that. But anything beyond that, I can't agree with it. And
yeah, no, I couldn't either. Like I said, if it gets too rich for this team's blood, don't even pursue it. I mean, yes, I read that Allen and Heineke will be unrestricted free agents coming into this off season. So yeah, your quarterback situation could be a little bit dire unless you can really resign them, which I think you can resign them at a pretty good price. And then you don't know what Alex's future is going to be, whether he's going to go at it one more year or if he's going to say I'm done. I mean, he's pretty much a lock comeback player of the year, just coming back and playing a couple of games after that leg injury. So your quarterback situation is going to be a little uncertain at this point until you know what Alex's position is and if you can re-sign either Heineke or Allen or both of them. I would say I wouldn't even be worried about signing both of them. Either one would work, especially when you have Steven Montez there and things like that. But yeah, I wouldn't look too much into this Watson thing if it gets too expensive. Now, like you said, first rounder and a player, yeah, I'd be like, okay, let's make the move and see what happens. But if it gets more than that, I'm out, man. I'm out.
no doubt, no doubt. Now go ahead and wrap up this pop-up show because I didn't want to go too long. We are almost at 45 minutes. So just to wrap up, I know most folks have seen the news that ex-Washington football team first-round pick quarterback Dwayne Haskins has been picked up by the Pittsburgh Steelers on a one-year deal. As I said, I have no hate or animosity towards the kid. I hope a new, scenario, new scenery, and a franchise that's has structure and have a certain way they do things, and I'm going to hold him more accountable for his actions and the way he puts in work, and if he puts in the work, I'm hoping that he, realizes that young black quarterbacks don't get second chances that often, and the fact that you get a second chance within a few months of getting cut, I hope he realizes the position he's in, and I hope that he puts in the work and can get better, because they going to have a void at quarterback soon. Ben, might have one more year in him, maybe. The other backup, I forgot his name, but he's famous for getting hit in the head by Myles Garrett with his helmet. That's about it. Mason, I think his name was, or something.
Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph. So, I mean, there's a chance for him to be a starting quarterback for a franchise that knows how to win championships. So, anybody that wants to pull that race card and say, it's against black quarterbacks and go on, I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying everything is equal, but there are some quarterbacks that do get a shot, and we have to, when they do get that shot, they have to take advantage of it. Unfortunately, most don't. I'm not going to start dropping names. I'm not going to start dropping names or nothing. But
I just got an update from Robbie.
Uh-oh.
So he just told me, this is from the rap sheet. Update on titles at Washington football team. Martin Herney will have a high-ranking role in the front office. Martin Mayhew is the GM.
Wow. Well, they said they were still in contract talks with Herney when they hired Mayhew. So remember, they said it was reported that he would be GM. So I got to hit up some of my sources after we get off there and see what's going on with that. Because appreciate that update, Robbie. I saw you said it on my feed, but I got Braveheart on the TV, and I was listening with DC People Champ, and I got the Tampa Bay Columbus game on, so I got a lot going on over here.
That's amazing. That's awesome, though, that Mayhew is the one that's a GM because it was originally thought that when I talked about it earlier about the, you know, primary football executive thing, the article from SB Nation thought it was going to be he wasn't going to get that position because it's going to Hurney. But now it looks like it's going to Mayhew, which means that the 49ers will get a third-round compensatory pick coming up.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Good breaking news, Robbie. Appreciate that. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna hit up some of my sources and get the insight on that. Once we get more information on that, you know we're gonna post about it because you can find it on our Sports OTHP page. You can find it on our website, sportsothp.com, or you can hear about it on our shows every Monday night, starting at 9 o'clock. Might be starting a little early lately, coming up soon. Who knows? But sports picking up and bring you the best DC sports coverage around. DC's People's Channel, let them know where they can find you and what you're working on next for No Spots Podcast before we get out of here.
Right, so this coming Saturday on the No Spots Podcast, we are going to be talking about this week in wrestling, of course, with Raw, which was absolutely horrible this week, and we're going to absolutely trash it, and everything else that happened in wrestling. We're going to get into some wrestling news. Our Wrestling Impact is done with them. Their contract is over with, so they're gone. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a big show coming up for New Japan coming up on Saturday morning in Tokyo, which is going to feature the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships as the main event. And we're going to have a nice little countdown. Not going to say what it is. Just have to tune in to find out what it is. That's the No Spots Podcast coming up this Saturday, streaming live 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page, facebook.com/No Spots Pod.
No doubt. Make sure you check it out. Got all the best wrestling coverage around. I haven't had a chance to check it out, but we got a couple of folks that tune into the show and that's on the show to check it out. So make sure you do. Just got a text confirming that Martin Mayhew is the GM. I didn't even have to reach out. I just got the word just now. My folks was behind Robbie this time. But, hey, we spoke about it earlier. That's why we do what we do. That's why we're DC Sports Other Politics, because we talk about the real sports. We don't talk about that clickbait BS. We don't talk about that other stuff that don't mean nothing. We bring you the best DC sports coverage around. I love when breaking news comes on when we're on air. I love making it feel like a real reporter on TV. But DC's People's Channel, appreciate you taking the time. We got it in a little bit under an hour. I'm going to end the show, as always, with Renegade 703 Money Convo. And make sure you go follow him on Instagram, on YouTube. Got over, I think, 13,000 views in the video, over 500,000 streams on all streaming platforms. So make sure you go check him out. He's the hottest thing in the DMV. Stay tuned for so much more because it's coming. DC Sports Weather Politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. And we out. the Gate 703. Y'all gotta go check them out, baby. Hottest thing in the DMV, up and coming.